I'll take the baton next with another series that. So I'm gonna say it straight up. This is I didn't expect this to be, or taking this sort of bullet has been relatively rare for me in the past like one or two seasons. But I ended up taking this bullet, and it was partly annoyingly. But the series I am covering is uh, Osananajimi to Rabukomen ni Naranai, also known as You Can't Be in a Rom-Com with Your Childhood Friends, also known as OsaLove. So this
You
is, I
called that taking a
believe,
bullet?
yes, very yes. But this is a manga original by Misu Shinya. So Misu Shinya has done a couple of other manga here and there. A lot of this, again, a lot of it's kind of more romance comedy kind of centered. Did a couple of like one shots and stuff for some anthologies here and there. But this is, I think, their first anime produced manga series that they have. The anime itself is being produced by Tezuka Productions. So Tezuka Productions of, more recently Gotobu no Hanayome fame, or Quintessential Quintuplets fame. Kanajo mo Kanajo, Adachi to Shimamura, Blackjack, so on and so forth. The director is Kobara Satoshi. So Kobara Satoshi is pretty much, I would say, the main director at Tezuka. If you look at Tezuka Productions' main, the ones that they've headed as anime production as prime contractors, you'll pretty much see that he's the one leading most of those projects. In these projects, for this one, for OsaLove, he's kind of heading a team that's mainly composed of the core people he's worked with under Tezuka Productions to, as sort of, I want to say like a stable kind of set. So again, like a lot of the other staff that you see has worked with him in a lot of these the other series. Um, but yeah, uh, so going over to the voice acting cast, the voice acting cast is kind of interesting because most of this cast is actually a bunch of younger, like, kind of up and comers in the industry. It's kind of similar to some of the isekai setups that's become popular recently, where a lot of isekai series that have a harem of like 10 girls or whatever, right? They hire a bunch of newcomers, and it's somewhat similar to this, where they have a couple of, again, newcomers such as Kusumi Rin, who has done a couple of main roles. So she did Kaoru in I Shall Survive Using Potions, as well as Hiyori in Slow Loop. There's Hiratsuka Sae, who did Mitsuki in Himitsu no Aipuri. There's I believe the main character, the main male protagonist, is Takehiro Urao, who has done a role in Idolmaster Siam. And there's also, again, another newcomer, relative, but somewhat newcomer in Yamamoto Yuki. But there is also one big veteran hidden in the mix, so that would be Serizawa Yu. So Serizawa Yu, I believe, does one of the girls in sort of this harem in the series, and she's probably kind of, in the actual recording, right? She is probably helping lead the rest along, because she does do one of the main heroines here. So very kind of interesting mix. Going over to the OPED here, for opening, we have I Love You by Honeyworks, and this is also sung by the voice actresses. As for the actual opening itself, the key, the tempo, pretty much everything is super, super Honeyworks coded. But I would say the overall quality of like the opening of the composition and stuff is a little bit lackluster. Like the bridge and stuff like that is definitely not as, I think, memorable compared to, obviously, their much more famous songs, right? Fan service, Hiroin, Nitaru like all of these other songs, right, that they have in the back. But it's definitely, I think it's a little bit watered down compared to those. The storyboard itself is also very generic, a bunch of hearts flying around, all the characters being introduced, so on and so forth. Nothing really to write home about. The ending is Amanojaku, also known as Contrarian, by Kodami Hikari. So Kodami Hikari is a female singer and voice actress from Chiba. I would say the actual chops on this voice actress, obviously this is a little bit obvious, right? Her singing chops is actually surprisingly pretty good, and other than that, it's a pretty standard composition for a slower paced ending and a song. And again, a lot of the standard still shots, right, in the ending that you might see in the storyboard for an ending. Someone sleeping, someone someone by the window, stuff like that. A lot of very standard visual design for an ending production. So again, nothing wrong, nothing really to write home about on that end. I would say in the actual episodes, the color palette is super, super, super bright with pretty thin lines. It's almost like they're constantly trying to go for a Honeyworks music video vibe. Um, it's kind of reminiscent of the later seasons of, I want to say, like Baka to Test back in the days when Ono Ishin was directing it, and along with Silverlink, it kind of reminds me of that palette almost, as well as like Kakko na Inazuke, a couple of cuckoos or whatever it was, that series, and it's super 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 bright. I'm just like, are they just like trying to all in on this like kind of like Honeyworks vibe? What's happening, kind of thing. As you can obviously see from this poster art. This poster art, like this sort of like palette, is the entire series. This is not just the poster art, by the way. Um, I would say the BGM is quite heavy on electronic sounds, electronic synth sounds. It's very reminiscent of like a 2000s to 2010s style electro synth bass. I want to say like the sort of BGMs, slice of life BGMs that you would see in like romance rom-com like visual novels, right? The classic ones that like Sphere and the other um, studios would make, and it's not bad, I would say, but it is sometimes a little bit on the nose. And again, it's kind of like pretty standard. I don't think there was any like specific BGM track where I was like, oh crap, this is really good or anything like that. It's very standard. So that's pretty much it for the audio visuals. The story. So the story is, how do I say this? The main character, Sakai Yonosuke. He's also known as Au in by his friends, I guess, by his acquaintances. He has two childhood friends called Hyodoshi Akari and Minamo Shio. So he interacts with them daily, at school or at various different places, um, and he's grown conscious of them, right? He has kind of romantic feelings like towards them, but he wants to kind of hide it, quote unquote, for whatever reason, because or not whatever reason. He wants to hide it from his childhood friends because he thinks that if he reveals his romantic feelings for them, they'll be kind of disgusted at him and being like, "Oh, you're just a horn dog or whatever." So he's doing that, trying to be celibate or whatever the hell he's doing. And meanwhile, the girls are also like, "Oh man, the main character is so cool at times. I'm falling in love and all of that stuff." It's gonna be this. I don't know what to say. This summary is gonna be pretty short. It's a very, 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 very standard rom-com series. It's like if you guys have seen, you know, Megami-sama, if you guys have seen To Love Ru, if you guys have seen, um, what's that series with the red hair and the blue hair chick? with like the teacher or whatever, right? I forget. With the tutor. What was that one? Um,
Tutor?
there was a series where they had like the main two girls were like the red haired one and the was it We Never Learn, like Bokuben, right? It's like if you've seen shit like
Right.
Bokuben, if you've seen, To Love Ru, if you've seen whatever, you've seen this. It has pretty much like every single kind of thing that you're like, oh, this would probably be in this sort of, I want to say 2010s, early 2010s reminiscent series, right? You have the boobs mushing, like them being, the girl being too close, and the boobs mushing onto the dude, and then him being like, oh no, blah blah. You have the kind of emoto character, glomping onto the main character, and then the girls being jealous. You have this and that kind of like Mutsuri Skebe incidents going on, the whole shebang. And so it doesn't really bring anything new to the table. All the lines are almost painfully. I want. I don't even want to say almost. They are painfully to 2010s rom-com inspired. And the issue is, it's like it is. I don't even want to say inspired. They're not inspired. They're essentially copies, right? They are carbon copies of these like rom-com lines. And so the issue is, it's like I feel like if this series was kind of making references and then kind of riffing off of it and doing something new, slightly new, right? Off of like the rom-com tropes that was in vogue back then, I'd be like, sure, I guess. Um, but with both the story and also the standard tropes and the lines that are used in these sorts of like tropes and setups, both going nowhere in terms of new areas, I don't think this series really brings anything new to the table. And it's like, okay, like this is just slop, right? Again, like what are we doing here? So it's a little bit unfortunate, but I don't think this series really does anything where I'm just like, oh, I want to watch this instead of, again, like any other rom-com series. So I think that's pretty much the summary. Like there is, if you've seen any other rom-com series, if you've seen literally a rom-com clip or highlight of rom-com series on YouTube, that's probably somewhere in here, right? Like very like there's nothing creative really about this series. Um, I I don't even know what to give this series, because it's like at some point, if it's so middling like this, it has to start losing points pretty heavily. Um, but the overall setup in terms of like the audio visuals aren't the worst thing. I would say at best I can only give this like a 4, maybe. I think it could fall into like a 3.5. Again, once it goes into like a 3 area, that's like, for me, that's like, this is objectively a bad series. Um, but it's honestly really just middling. So I'll probably give it a 3.5 or 4. I know Mel gave it a pretty bad score too, right? It's a
Out of five?
6.5.
Damn, pretty good.
Yeah, be thankful it's not out of 50. But yes, 6.48. Or they gave the Mal people gave it 6.48, which is pretty bad for Mal as well. So they're pretty much in agreement at least this time around. But yeah, there's really nothing of value to be gained from watching this series. So um, just watch literally any other series. But yeah, that was pretty much my review of OsaLove. This is, again, you can't be in a rom-com with your childhood friend, also known as Osananajimi to a Rabukoe ni Naranai. Manga original by Missy Shinya, directed by uh, Kuwabara Satoshi over at Tezuka Productions. A little bit disappointing. Again, it has all these Honeyworks trappings, Honeyworks coded kind of visual setups, but I would say it's quite disappointing, to say the very least.